Hello and welcome to the 11th episode of Tailoring in Conversation. In this series, I'll be talking to tailors from all around the globe to gain a better insight into their worlds. And my guest for today is Avery Lucas. Avery is a bespoke tailor from the United States, but how I would like to describe Avery, or the only way I really can describe him, is that he is truly a hidden gem. I've enjoyed talking to him. I've always learned something from him, and he's someone who's been there and done that. So we're going to talk about his career, his journey into tailoring, some good old tailoring advice, and perhaps a few things to note for the younger generation. So let's get to it. Avery, man, thank you so much. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you. So, Avery, one of the things I always ask everyone when I interview them is, if me and you were 10 years old and we were friends, where would we be?
10 years old?
10 years old, yes.
Probably sitting down in our parents' den or somewhere, sketching, drawing, looking at color, wondering what are these thoughts all about? Where are we going? We have no idea, but we start at that age early, but
Yes.
we don't know what's happening to us.
So, just to give a little bit of context for the viewers, what year would that be if me and you were 10?
Uh, what year would it be? 1928.
1928. But you're not that old, are you?
Oh, no, no. Oh, what year would that be? 1966.
1966.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's for most people of my generation. That's quite a while back. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So what? One of the things I'd like to know is from the 10-year-old you up until today. How did you get into tailoring? How did your ideas develop? How did your curiosity develop? Was it in the family? Was it in your surroundings? Where did it all come from?
My father,
Your
my dad.
father.
Yes.
So
At
how
the
was that?
age, it started at the age of 6, paying
6.
attention, watching how he would come home and transform until this elegant gentleman just to eat dinner, whether it had been just a polo shirt, a English check jacket, and a pair of mid-gray worsted wool, or if it's fall, winter flannel trousers, and a
Mm-hmm.
slip-on. And my question was, and I guess what kind of sparked me, I wanted to look like my dad.
So
So I
what
would
did your
go to
dad
my
do?
room. Oh, my dad was a contractor
Right.
for the government. And he didn't dress like that. When he left for work and when he came home from work, he
Mm-hmm.
transformed after his shower and he would lay it out. Dinner's at 5 o'clock, so somewhere around 4:30, and it was almost like monkey see, monkey do.
Yes.
So when my dad laid his out, I went to my room, pulled out a blazer or sport coat or a V-neck sweater, and a button-down shirt, and
Mm-hmm.
I changed the trousers that had the proper crease. Started with plain front, no pleats in those days, and a
Yeah.
pair of Bass Regent loafers, no socks.
So
And I would
what I
sit and watch. Go ahead.
why did he put so much emphasis on dressing up?
He felt that we never really discussed it, but I would assume that the clothes created the character,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps maybe that's what he wanted to be, a white collar guy, suit and tie, but he did it on his time, not through. It wasn't demanded for him to dress that way throughout his career.
Right.
He just had a love for getting dressed, a
Mm-hmm.
passionate. I mean, his hair, his mustache, his nails, um, just everything. His grooming, his
Mm-hmm.
car, um, his closet was set up in a way that only he could figure it out. How to just go and pour this and pour that and open the door and take this out. I used to
Mm-hmm.
go in there as a kid, and that was my playtime. It was a big walk-in closet. I would sneak in and close the door
Yeah.
and just start going through things and trying on things. He had a full-length mirror, and I would look at myself. Of course, everything was big on me,
Yes.
but
Yes.
so long as it hung from the neck and the collar fit and
Yeah.
draped, I would pretend to be my dad. Without it,
Okay.
yeah,
So your dad has clearly had a lot of passion for clothing, fabrics, colors, combination, style. He had style, right? You
yes.
obviously could have seen that. You could have, been there and maybe choose basketball or football or I don't know, something else to do. Why did that specifically attract you?
Honestly, it got attention. It caught the eyes of people
Hmm.
surrounding me, and it was an emotional feeling. Made me
Hmm.
feel good. Made me stand erect. It made me strut, walk back and forth. All I know, it was just a great feeling for someone to ask, "Where did you get that? Wow, why did you put that together?" Oh, the compliments. And as I got older, it started to become necessary. I
Hmm.
mean, by the time I am 10, 11, I had an audience. It was either my school teacher, the school principal, the coach, the ladies that worked in the cafeteria. They would say to me, "Oh, let me see what you got on today."
Right.
And I knew I was on to something because I was loving it and it was
Hmm.
loving me back. Nothing
Right.
else was really loving me back outside of my parents, my sister, and my brother. Yes, they was loving me back. But the world that I live in
Hmm.
wasn't giving me the love that I could feel and understand.
Right.
So I gave it my love and my attention.
Hmm. Were there things around you that you thought, you know, I have this passion for clothing, and I also want to gain more knowledge about it and kind of like become some sort of an apprentice to this field? Did you have a lot of facilities and places where you could go and learn things and develop things?
Growing up, no. Taught
Okay.
myself.
Which
Um,
area, which city did you grow up?
in Virginia, the state of Virginia, in a small area called Tidewater, Williamsburg, Virginia,
All right. Okay.
the
Okay.
colonial district.
Right. Right.
And I guess it was just the art of dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Parents taking me shopping allowed me to choose, but there was a lesson that came with it. I would see this and this and that, and my father says, "No, put it back. One pair of gray worsted trousers is going to outlast all of this. Quality, son, quality." I was like, "Man, I could get a lot of that at the same price for one of these." And he would say, "Quality, son, quality." It's like, oh man, okay. And I obeyed him, and I knew that every time I wear that trouser, wear that blazer, um, it created a character within me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just started to just do small basic things. How to press,
Right.
how to press, which is really important to my dad and it's to me as well. The roll and the crease became an obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will start to judge. You know, you become very judgmental. You're sitting somewhere, whether it be at a high school function or whatever, and I look, and the guy has no crease. And maybe, with, it was immaturity, but I would have known it. It's like you got on those trousers. You didn't take the time to put them on the ironing board and press in a crease. How could you? How could you even stand next to me? So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of stayed off to myself, um, being very honest and candid. I was a snob
Yes.
because if you if you couldn't carry off the message as I did at a young age,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't live in the neighborhood. I didn't live
Yes.
in the surroundings. So I was an oddball, and I accepted that. So by the time I
Well.
got uh, at a certain age, to be exact, 15 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make something. I'm tired of like altering and tapering trousers and lengthening
Yeah.
sleeves and shortening sleeves and changing plastic buttons to pearl buttons and taking corrosion nut buttons off of things and putting on buttons on. It's just enhancing the garment by the devices that I had to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I cut was I used a McCall and a Butterick pattern.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about how you got started. Because you say you taught yourself. You didn't have a lot of teachers around you apart from, let's say,
No,
your dad and
wait,
some others. So
actually,
how did you get
it
into
started
it?
in the it started in the 10th grade and home economics. So all my basketball, football. What are you going to take home economics? Well, you going to learn how to bake a cake? I said, no, I'm going to learn how to make a shirt. Well, that's a little weird, but and it didn't come into the second semester. But I drove that instructor nuts. When are we going to make a shirt? When are we going to make a shirt? When are we going to make a shirt? And she came one day. Next week we're going to start sewing. I left Earth and went off somewhere into space with excitement. So I
Mm.
started to prepare myself, prepare proper wife cutting shears in my parents' house. Took some plywood, put some legs on it, built the table. That was my altar. So 16 years old brother said, what do you want for your birthday? I said, a sewing machine. What? Sewing machine? What are you going to do? Well, make something. Well, make some clothes. Why? I'll buy you clothes. No, I want to make them. Well, you take me shopping is not really what I want. I got some ideas, and I want to create something. So he gave me a sewing machine. I went to the nearest little sewing supply store, fabric store, bought some red velvet, a Butterick pattern, and a McCall pattern because I saw two different versions and I cut them up and taped it with Scotch tape back to what I want. And I cut it, and I made it. And no one believed I did it. So at that point right there, I said to myself, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, my mom pushed me into law. My father was pushing me into medicine, and I rebelled. I said, as soon as I graduate, I'm going to a design school. I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
real with this. I need to be trained. I need lessons. I need to be somewhere in an art room and a room with tables and machines and, facilities. And
Mm-hmm.
they sent me off to art school down in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's when I really started to make my patterns. I
Mm-hmm.
started to draft. I still, to this day, use the Mitchell system. I just
Right.
think it's by far better than any system in the world in terms of
Mm-hmm.
balance and very comprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started getting my tools and collecting vintage tools. Whether I
Mm-hmm.
used them or not, I had a wooden hip curve, a wooden L square with the brass connections at it. And nobody that I associated myself with cared
Mm-hmm.
about this. So
Did you
I
have any
just,
friends that were into the same thing?
I had a high school girlfriend that pushed me because she
Mm-hmm.
said the red velvet suit was a hit for her. She said she fell deeper in love when I wore it. I says, okay, I'm going to make a blue one. I'm going to make another one, a gray. But it
Yeah.
started to evolve from just cut and sew to
Mm-hmm.
drafting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I understood, not as well as I do now, but I understood that you have to have a foundation. And that
Mm-hmm.
foundation has got to be something that will stand the test of time, balance, shape, form. So you got to learn how to cut your paper, man.
Yes, Avery, this is a very good point you're mentioning, and I'm sure that most of the viewers know this as well. But some of the viewers who are just starting out and just getting into our trade, when you say you need to have a foundation, right? Obviously, back then you were just trying out things and you weren't benefiting from the experience that you have now, right? What would you say the foundation is? What if someone asks you what is the foundations? What are the foundations of tailoring of design of that? What would you say? What are the most important basic elements that a person needs to know if they want to really make it in this industry?
You got to figure out exactly what it is you want to do in this industry. If you want to go into cloth, cloth, study yarn, learn the water that these sheep and how they grade. You got to go deep. You just can't do what guys are doing now. Come up with a logo, get a name, and then they made to measure business. They want to make suits. With me, the foundation is it's an architectural form. You got to be able to build something that has no name on it. It has no identity, but it's there because you
Mm,
built it. Whether it be a jacket, a trouser, shirts, shoes, knitwear, it has to start from somewhere so you can build on it. And that is number one, most important, history. Study your history. Start to look at books. I mean, old books. Go back to the 16th century.
when you say history, do you mean your personal history, like you are and where you're from, or do you mean the history of the trade and the
The
industry?
history of what you decide to do.
Right, right,
If
right.
you want to go into tailoring, Man, stop looking at, you don't start with now, you, myself. Started way
Hmm.
before we did. Go back to
Yes.
that point, to the
Well, why would you
original.
say?
And
Why do you think it's important to study the history? What do you think is the essence of that?
it's like anything else, science, medicine. It's like anything you do. You got to know the beginning.
Hmm.
The beginning. When there was no sewing machines. Everything was done by hand by some lad sitting on a table with his legs folded. You gotta
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
It's not some factory in London or Italy or the U.S. and you got machines lined up. You got a cutter over there, and you got the fitters over there. No, you got to go back as far as you can, as far as the information is available to you. And I think that's where you start. Um, I run a small school, Lucas Dressing Academy. I find it very difficult. I find it sometimes it upsets me. Sometimes I get angry.
Hmm.
I'm a very emotional guy. And I see these guys out here don't want to do what I did from the very beginning. You
Hmm.
just want instant gratification now. And I ask a lot of these guys, like, can you cut? No, I don't cut. I use this one to cut. So, well, how do you know about the pitch, the balance, the forward, the reversing,
Hmm.
the twist, the turns, the shape? How do you know about that? Well, I got it. So you're not a tailor, man. You're not a tailor. You're a stylist. Is what you are.
Hmm.
It just, I mean, we see it on Instagram all the time, man. Half these guys
Yes.
are just got good cloth, had something made, and they're just out there like peacocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Avery, please, before we get into what you're currently doing, could you just tell us a little bit about how you further developed from being in high school, starting out? What were some of the places that you had to go in order to learn what you had to learn? Because when someone like you says you need to know the history, you need to learn things from a deep level. I'm very curious in how you approach that during your journey.
it and it still has been a blessing journey for me. I came to New York in 1979.
Hmm.
I just finished my undergrad at BCU in the art department. I was an art history major. And I came to New York with the intention to pursue a menswear designer. So I entered FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology, in the menswear division. I started setting myself up in my flat, my cutting table machine, but I didn't know anybody. I happened to meet a guy by the name of Richard Simons. He was from Bermuda, lived in Brooklyn. He's a coat maker. And I told him I want to do it. He says, "Oh, come by the shop sometime. Hang around. You know, watch me." Then I met a trouser maker, Jamie Pierre from Panama. These guys was masters. I was a mere beginner. And they took the time out to train me, to teach me. No, don't do it like that. Do it like this. This is how you do that. When you get to that procedure, this is the way you want to do it. It was their way. And I had two great teachers.
Hmm.
When a lot of these that allowed me to come in and create. Oh, just no,
Yes.
don't get into that. Your guy just wants a pair of plain trousers, no lubes, clean waistband. I said, well, why don't we just shape the pocket like this? Why don't we like raise the back like this? And they look at me as like, oh man, just keep it simple. Keep it simple.
R-
But I'm not a
right,
simple
right.
guy.
Okay, okay. So I have a question here. You know, when you start to learn something, anything, when you become an apprentice, one of the things that you hear as an apprentice is just do as I tell you. Just do as I tell you, right? Now, I can understand, as I've experienced it myself, this is very frustrating when you are a creative person and you're curious, you have a lot of questions, you want to try things out, but you keep hearing, do as I tell you. Now, sometimes this is very important because it gives you a foundation, right? If you want to be all over the place, then you're not gonna go forwards with a lot of focus. But at the same time, it can become very rigid and boring. So, what I'd like to ask you is, given that you have experienced this, I've experienced this, and many other people watching this will and have experienced this, what do you think is the best way to deal with that? To trust, but at the same time know when it's becoming too rigid and what to do about it.
You always have to respect your master, your teacher. You have to respect, regardless of what's going on through your head. You're like, no, never showing that. Because you got to understand, he's 3 times your age. So he's there. Listen, suck up everything that he's going to teach you. Yours is to come, patience. But you got to learn how to drive a car straight before you start going around curves and being a race car driver. You got to learn the basic elements. And it was frustrating because I was all about details. Half moon, decent pockets. No, just make it straight. Oh, that's a difficult thing to do. No, it's not. It just takes a little more time. Just take, basic by hand. This guy's going to put 2 fibers together, 6 rounds, cut through, cut the V, flip it. I said, okay, that's a basic way to do the pocket. But kept, it was hard for me to keep my mouth closed. And sometimes I became annoying because I was hungry, man. I was just starving to become better and better and better. Okay, you taught me all of the basics. Fine. I love you for it. But I must move on. I must start to develop. I'm a creator.
Yes.
I don't know how, and I never learned, and I never will, and I don't want to, how to put that and bottle it up somewhere and save it for when it's time. No. I'm like that every day I wake up.
Right. How would you
That I've
say
got to
you could?
create.
How do you think? How would you say you could? How does one recognize a good master? You're trying to find an apprenticeship. You're going out to all these shops, for example. How can you tell that's the person I have to learn from? That's the person who I can learn the most with.
It's got to be something that happens with inside of you. There's got to
Inside
be
of you.
something that ticks. There's got to be something that happens. It's your gut, man. It's your gut. It's a reaction that you're going to feel like, damn, I don't particularly like that guy because he's strict and he's raising his eyebrows. He's a little aggressive when he's talking to me. You got to be smart enough to know, but damn it, he's giving me some of the best information that I can get in the world. You have to decide within yourself, can you tolerate a person that's, number one, has an obsession,
Mm-hmm.
He has a passion and a commitment that is pretty much borderline insanity. So can
Mm-hmm.
you teach someone? Haven't been that person? Can you teach someone? It's hard, man. It's hard,
Well, it
you
seems
know,
as if one
because
of the things that it seems that one of the things that you're saying really is that first, before you really start the journey, what you need to have happen within you is the hunger to learn more and to go out there despite the people who are going to be either with you or against you in your journey. It has to be this intense hunger. Now, my question would be, if someone is just starting out, right, and they don't know anything, they haven't done anything, they haven't made anything, how could they know that what this person is telling me or what this person is showing me is real, is of good quality, and to my benefit? How would they be able to tell so that they could trust?
I think that is the responsibility of you, myself, as teachers. First of all, you've got to get him to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And by when I say trust you, you got to show him everything that was shown to you. You can't have no little secrets. I only keep this to myself because no, you got to show him everything. You got to let him know that I'm giving you jewels. I'm giving you diamonds, and I want you to value them. And I think at that point, if he knows how precious it is, he will jump on board. But like I say, it's energy. It's
Mm-hmm.
energy. You know, some people you can connect. I mean, I've met some of the greats. They were assholes. They had
Mm-hmm.
horrible bedside manners, horrible personalities. Um, but they were a master. And I think for the student,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to learn, how did he get there?
Right.
If you want to walk that journey, how did he get there? He got there by being who he is. Now, you make a decision. You want to be a part of him or not?
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you. But like I said, you got to have that hunger. And I'll just tell you a quick story. I met
Sure.
Henry Stewart back in 1980. To me, he's one of the best tailors in the world. I walked through this man's door up on the fourth floor on 57th Street. And I went into his little showroom, and then as the workshop. And I recognized him, and I kind of stood at a distance. And I said, Mr. Stewart, how are you? And he didn't answer. I said, okay. I said, can I walk through? And he didn't answer, so I just walked through. So as I got closer, he asked me, what do you want? Um, I didn't know what to say. I said, I'm just visiting. I'm a student at FIT and I want to learn. I choked. And he gave me like another 3 seconds. He says, I tell you what, turn around, go back out the door, come back another time until you figure out what you want. Don't bother me, okay? I was like, wow, he was freaking rude. I don't like him. I went back. But when I went back, I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
I went back 4 days later. I was ready in terms of, I told him I wanted to learn. And I told him that I did a little study. He was doing the Godfather 1. He was working with Pacino at the time. And I see his work on the cutting table, and there's a guy over there doing sleeves, and there's another guy over there basic at. And he said, what do you want to learn? I said, I want to learn all of this. And you know what he said to me? He says, first thing you can do, hey, you see all this fabric and thread and stuff on the floor? See that broom over there? Sweep the floor. So I put my bag down and I started sweeping the floor. Then I
Mm-hmm.
started asking questions. And he saw that I was hungry. And he would come over here. Won't you stand over me? Watch this. And I would watch. And I would ask questions. Why did you fold one seam that way, but you rolled the other?
Mm-hmm.
He's working with the sleeve head. He's working with the armhole. So like, why you do this? And he says, because I wanted to have attention. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to speak. This is how you do it. Okay, all right. Okay. And he taught me a lot, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to be emotional, but he kind of like put me into order
Yeah.
of quality, being the best, and developing a signature for yourself. 57th Street at the time had some renowned tails. Your Maurizio, your John Rao, your Raphael, your Morty Fields. These guys was tailors for the stars. Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Dean Martin. They was tailored for the stars. And I said, this is guy, I want to be them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be them. Not because of their recognition of just their name. It was because of their talent and their ability to build a garment that had a soul. It had a spirit. You
Mm-hmm.
can just look at it on the hanger and tell, man, you can look between the sleeve and the waistline. Man, look at the shape on that. Why's the pot? Why does it looks long? No, I raised the pockets. They start to teach me tricks of the trade. You
Mm-hmm.
know, no matter what, his signature was his pockets was an inch and a half higher than anybody else on the row. The way he put away his top collar, um, the way he would cut a breast pocket through canvas, not
Mm-hmm.
through the coat. He cut through it all to make the breast pocket. Why? Because it's a little small area. It should say something.
Mm-hmm.
I says, well, say something about putting a pocket square. Take a pocket square out. It's got to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I am today.
So,
Um,
how much do you think that the how much do you think the vision is transferred as well as the technical skills from the teacher, and how much of it is up to the student to take on board from their experiences in their lives? Because obviously the master can teach you the technical things, but sometimes what I've noticed, for example, is the master doesn't have all the technical skills, but they teach you more vision and they allow you to go after that vision, and you have to find out the technicals. How do you see that balance? What do you think that's the possibilities are there and should be?
I think it's got to be a high amount of percentage of passion.
Mm.
You just you gotta fall in love with it, man. The technical stuff, hell, you know and I know, man. I can get you to do the technical stuff,
Right.
but I got to know what I want it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
So you take your student and you've got to open his eyes to various
Mm-hmm.
things in life, because you just walk through the streets, or you go to the museums, or you go and look at the architecture, the old buildings. You can apply all of that to a coat
Hmm.
because you have that vision. You've the eyes have seen something that can be translated,
Right. So
and
you teach
then
the,
it
the
really you
student
just
to
gotta
look, how to look.
yeah you just gotta have I don't know. I just think man you just gotta love it, man. You gotta
Hmm.
be in love with it, and if
Yes,
you are, it will love you back.
that's right.
I someone says that I am in love with clothing, and they says why? I said because it loves me back better than any human being can do.
Mm.
And she says like, wow. And I meant it from my heart
Mm.
every day.
So tell us a little bit about how it went further. So you are with Henry Stewart, and then you continue your learning. How did it go? Where did you go next?
Um, I went. I graduated top of my class, 1982 from FIT, and I actually was doing some slut work and some little apprentice for Alan Flusser because at the time he was hot. He was on the scene. He was kind of like had the menswear market, at least with the updated traditional look. And then he
Hmm.
brought in this little British flair to the American market. Uh, he started people stopped calling braces suspenders, stop calling pants or slacks, call them trousers. It was his
Hmm.
teachings, and I just kind of dug what he was doing. So I would go up there three, 3 to 4 days, sometimes 4 hours, help out in the showroom, and I was working retail,
Hmm.
and we had a paper. It was called the DNR, Daily News Record.
Hmm.
And on the front page, I'm standing on the floor. And on the front page, I see this guy with a Norfolk jacket on, and the picture was he was wearing plus fours, Argyle socks, Gillies. And I says, who the hell is this? And he said, Garrick Anderson. I says, oh man, this guy's like, if this is what I want to do. This
Hmm.
is the mold I'm cut from. Called him up, got him on the phone, told me, where are you? I says, I'm working up at Cherivari. What time you get off? I says, I think hold on for a second. So I just came, I didn't ask nobody. I just said, soon. He says, well, I'm at 321 Fifth Avenue. Come down and see me. I went down and see me. He hired me.
Hmm.
He was the first to give me the opportunity to look at cloth
Hmm.
and figure out what are we going to do with this cloth? What are you going to make out of it? He put everything into my hand. Bam. Was I ready? I'm still not sure was I ready, but I succeeded to do under his label his very first collection. Man, it was like a dream come true.
Hmm.
We sold to your better retail stores, your Barney's, your Bergdorf Goodman's, your Saks, all the high end specialty stores. And I guess I broke his heart.
Why did you do that?
I left because my girlfriend at the time, my future wife, then my wife, now my ex wife, had the opportunity to go into bespoke shirts. She was an
Hmm.
operator. She was a seamstress, and she worked for a bespoke shirt maker. And he was an older gentleman. ready to retire, and he asked her, did she want the business?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah. So she came to the flat and says, I got an opportunity to get the business. What are you going to do with it? She says, we're going to run it. We, and at the time I had left Garrett because I wanted to start my own. And I says, okay. We inherited a set of block patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I revamped them, um, started cutting. We had 4 ladies to operate, me as the cutter and the fitter and the seller. And that's when I took the business side of it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the talent and skills and the ability to create something, to make something that's got all these guys in the garment center saying, hey, go to see that kid that's making shirts over on 37th Street. This kid is good.
Mm.
Wow, wow. They're talking about me? My ex-wife says, no, they're talking about us. I said, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. And we couldn't handle the production.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't. I know that's a dream that most people won't come true. Give it to me, give it to me. But we
Yeah.
couldn't handle it. Number one, we had our first child. We took over that business in '85. First child, I married her in '87. My first child was born in '89. So being parents now. So
Mm-hmm.
I would tell her, go home, take care of the baby. I would work at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
I would sleep on the cutting table. I call
Yes.
her and says, I'm not coming home. She says, you got to rest. I said, I didn't put bolts of fabric and a lot of fabric. I'm going to sleep on the cutting table. And I
Yeah.
did that for many nights and for many years. I found it hard to detach myself from what I love.
Mm-hmm. Well, you
And
mentioned something about the learning the business side as well, and I think this is especially important for younger tailors who are apprenticing, but also for tailors who have learned their skills and maybe want to start something on their own. How did that go for you? I mean, obviously, when you spend like 5, 6 years, 10 years, whatever years, learning technical things, sometimes you forget about all the things that you need to do as a business owner. So how did you make that transition? What were the things that you thought were the most challenging? And if someone today wants to start a business, they really need to know those things. What would that be?
what that would be going into business, and which I didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Your cost to make a garment, right down to every yard of thread. If it takes a whole spool, include that spool into the
Mm-hmm.
garment. The buttons, everything, the canvas, the labor, everything that goes into it, the cost. Sit down, figure it out. Can your market bear that? Do you have the guy that can afford that? You got to figure all that out. Where you
Mm-hmm.
want to be at in this business. You don't want to be made to measure. You show people fabrics. You go around to their office. You send it off to China or Hong Kong or wherever you send it. It comes back, bid him up. He's happy. You film another one. If you want to build clothing for people, now there's no middleman. It all
Mm-hmm.
relies on you. You know. And I think my advice is you got to come in on the high side. Why I say that? Because if you come in on the low side, you're hungry. You just want some clients. So you cut them deals with prices.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be murder to get where you should be for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because your picture, your comment says, oh, hell, you're getting expensive. I can't afford you anymore. That's the price you should have been paid in the beginning. But I was
Mm-hmm.
young. gullible, wanted to succeed. So underprice myself. Do not underprice yourself. Don't. Never do that. Because it's going to be very difficult for you to get the price that you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And don't come in on the high side because you've got big money behind you. You've got backers behind you. You've got financial people behind you. And you come in, you've got this beautiful little shop there in Soho or wherever it is, and you're
Mm-hmm.
gouging people with price points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like those guys, man. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they got a name for themselves. They got a lot of money, but the product is not what they say it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you was to open it up and look at the heartbeat,
Yeah.
look at the liver, the kidney. These are all the components that's into a bench-made garment. It's not there.
Mm.
Oh, you open it up. Oh, you see around the pocket? Oh, you see right here? You see this stuff right there? That's called fusing. That's glue. Oh, well, what's wrong with that? That's another lesson.
Mm.
But they have a name. They have this location, and they can get the prices for crap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to throw any names out, but a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff out here that's $6, $7, $8, $10,000. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But the only way it is that because you got to pay this one, you got to pay that one, you got to pay the lights, you got to pay for the over, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for that, and hopefully there's some left for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather work in a dungeon. Just don't take me away from my art. Don't
Mm-hmm.
take me away from it. That would hurt me.
So what happened when you left your next teacher and you broke his heart,
Um,
as you said? What happened after
uh,
that?
I said again. My
What
next who?
happened? Yes. What where did you go after your after you did the collection and
Started with my
the
wife, and then Taylor was 2, so 4, 18. 1991.
mm-hmm.
There's a merchant tailor by the name of Saint Laurie. Owner and proprietor was Andy Colson. Walks into our bespoke shirt place one day and made us an offer, my wife and myself, that we couldn't refuse. He
Right.
wanted to do an Avery Lucas for St. Laurie's collection. Teach me, I must be dreaming. Are you serious? So we sit down and iron things out, and it was a good, it was a good match. That is where I, on my own, was able to work with my pattern maker, the coat maker up on the third floor, the trousers maker down on the second floor, the busheling guys, the whole cutting room. I had to say, and we had accounts in Germany, Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and one little place in the UK I care not to mention. But my name is now important. And I didn't know how. I just thought
Mm-hmm.
just being great was good.
Mm-hmm.
No, you need a name. Your name is how people gonna call on you. That's right. So that was the birth in 1991 of Avery Lucas Collection. I
Mm-hmm.
went from St. Laurie. I was there 4 years. I left another opportunity. Alfred Dunhill
Mm-hmm.
um, called on me to head up their custom clothing department.
Mm-hmm.
But I would do the cutting. I would service the clients. I would create. But it's not a lot of creation that you're going to do for these Wall Street guys. They don't want to know about what's up under the lapel, you know. I'm going to cut up on this guy, man. I'm going to cut 13-inch side bench. You know, okay, side bench. Well, what the hell? I don't care. Man, nobody's cutting 13 inches in a side. You're not supposed to go there. Look at that chest. Man, it'll stand up by itself. You go to hit it, and it bounces back up. That's what we do on the inside of it. Oh, when my suit's going to be ready? You know, he's got 2 phones in his ear. But the opportunity was great. Now I'm growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from there to Dorme.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you've used that cloth. I think I see some books in your background there.
Yes, I do
But
have some books in the background.
as director of custom clothing again,
Mm-hmm.
and second child is born 8 years later, my son, and I thought that it was time for me to stop. I was afraid. I was scared to go on my own because I didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
financial backing. But now I have 2 kids. I
Yes.
am responsible financially for my
Mm-hmm.
children.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a risk. I still have the same label that
Mm-hmm.
I've had since I started in 91. And I just started getting on the phone, calling up some clients, going through my books, telling them what I'm doing. I started visiting offices, their homes,
Mm-hmm.
meeting them at hotels. You know, I used to love to rent a hotel room for a day and get these customers come in, but then I was in the hotel for the night. I'm, I'm paying for myself, you know. Up
Yeah.
north, I didn't live in the city,
Mm-hmm.
lived in the country, and you know, to this day, I no longer pursue looking for clients.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you like, if it's time, we can get about what I'm doing now.
Yes.
If you're
Yes.
ready,
I'd like. Sure. Sure.
it's complicated because all I want to do is be responsible for making beautiful clothing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be responsible for Avery does this for me.
Mm-hmm.
He puts his trust in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't make it, I'll find someone to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to create beautiful music, symphonies through clothing. I want to spread this love, this joy, this passion through my work. Um, I've got a few things in work right now that I'm working on with clients, but this may be a little surprise. I want to do a ready to wear, and it's not a
Right.
collection. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Collectibles. It has taken
Mm-hmm.
me 11 years to come up with my eyes closed. It's a dream. I can envision it. My 3-button coat. It's taken me 11 years. Playing
Mm-hmm.
around with the dots, the one-piece front, the split front. I finally got it. Finally got the trouser.
Mm-hmm.
Only comes one way. That's it. No,
Right.
can you do me? Can you do me this? No, I can't. Somebody else can do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
only going to do this. The blazer, which is as well. would be a suit, um, but with that trouser. But it could also be an odd trouser. But it just comes one way, and it doesn't change. The only thing changes is the cloth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting older. I don't have as much spunk in me as I
Mm-hmm.
had 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I decide that it's about my legacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about my story.
Mm-hmm.
I want, is there certain people in history that
Mm-hmm.
you can look at their garment and I don't give a damn how old it is? You'll know. There's one in northern Italy. We all know him well. You know his shoulder, man. You don't have to see the label inside of it. You know it. There's a great, a couple of great people here in America.
Mm-hmm.
You know it. I mean, there's some guys out there, I mean, they're cutting edge, but you can pretty much tell, you can tell Tommy Nutter. You can tell Edward Saxon.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell Michael Brown. You don't have to, there's no name that has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want to do in America. And I want it to be made in America. I'm not one of those guys that, I'm dealing with, a partnership with some cats in the UK just to say I'm doing business with the UK. I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
projects with cats in Italy just to say, no, I want it to be made in America.
Yes.
I mean, if you open up all the publications and everything that we read is Spain, France, UK, Italy.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you
Not
see the
so much
tailoring in
America.
America? Because I was speaking to someone and they told me that there is very, very little tailoring in America. What do you think of that?
I'm a pioneer.
Mm,
Create it. Create it. God damn it. Buy a building or rent a space. And for these young cats out here, you want to learn a trade? Here's my address. Teach them how to sew. Teach them
mm-hmm.
how to lay out cloth. Teach them how to use his shears. Teach him how to use his eyes. Give him something that I got skills. I can do this. If he just
Mm-hmm.
sets in sleep, or one guy just sets in pockets, or one lady just joins side seams, it can be done. We got to stop complaining and do something about it. Yeah, we lost it because it all started going abroad.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Americans didn't push for it. The American tailors didn't raise enough hell. They got
Mm-hmm.
boring. They wanted to do the same old American updated traditional look, and you lost it. And of course, other regions got stronger. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you've got stores here in America that only sell Italian collections. And I
Mm-hmm.
scratch my head on that. That doesn't make sense. Only Italy? Well, that's what our customers like. Are you introducing them to perhaps my signature blazer? Yeah, no. Okay, no, I get it. I get it. It doesn't have the cliche. Create it, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a few guys here. I like their work. I mean, Brooklyn Tailors,
Mm-hmm.
Yusuf, Rabbi Taylor. There are some tailors here, but I think they're too quiet.
Hmm.
They got to have some
Well,
rebel in. Yeah.
one of the things that I often think about is when we have a lot of independent tailors, maybe like a one-man workshop, maybe a small team of
Yeah.
3 people, 4 people. One of the things I see is that, or think at the same time, is they never really get the chance to turn themselves into a company and a system in the real sense. Maybe they are a company, but they are just small workshops or medium-sized workshops, and they're not really ran as companies. They're ran as workshops. And when you visit and you ask them questions, or you're trying to apprentice someone or whatsoever, very quickly will you notice that everything is in the head of the main person, and everybody else is following. And so you get like a
Right.
genius with 1,000 helpers syndrome, is what I really would call it. Whereas, when you're in a real company, it doesn't matter whether I'm there, you're there, he or she is there. It doesn't matter. It's there. They have it set as the, you could call it an operations manual or an instruction manual whatsoever. So whoever enters the company can build on top of the work of the previous person, and doesn't need to start all over from scratch. What do
Mm.
you think of that? How do you think that small independent tailors can grow and introduce a better and a bigger side, and perhaps a more systematic side within an industry like America, for example?
Interesting you say that. I think the first thing, we've got to open up to each other.
What do you
We have
mean?
to start mingling with each other. We have to start having sessions, meetings. We're going to meet over here at his shop, and we're going to
Hmm.
talk about ideas, how
Hmm.
we can get it back, how we
Right.
can become a voice in this menswear industry. You got to get together. No one man's going to do it. I'm not going to do it. No, no. It takes a company.
Hmm.
It takes a strong organization. One guy supports another guy. There's so many freaking egos and attitudes and
Hmm.
that whole peacock mentality, if you was to ask or mention one guy's name that you think that stuff is really nice to another guy, his reaction is like, "Oh yeah, he's alright." What kind of shit is that? You're acting like a bunch of women, man. Come on, stop pouting. You know, we don't show each other love. That's it. We do not show each other love, and that's the
Hmm.
only way. That's the only way. But
How would you
they
say that companies or tailors could support each other, um, and what ways would you suggest as a starting point? Because this goes not only for tailors in America or tailors that are established, but also an apprentice can also support another apprentice, or a student, or a startup, or whatsoever.
sharing the work,
Right.
sharing the love. Say a
Hmm.
guy's doing great in Brooklyn, then he's busy.
Hmm.
Well, the guy probably up in Westchester has got a little small shop, 4 or 5 people. They're coming in maybe 1 or 2 days a week because he don't have to work. Share the work with him, man. It's not going to kill you.
When you say share the
Why do you
work, you
want to
mean, when you say share the work, do you mean introduce clients, or do you mean share your knowledge?
share the work in process? Say if you got, and this guy knows your work, and he can do it just like you do it.
Hmm.
Um, Say if you got 10 suits and you under pressure, give this guy 2 suits to make for you.
Hmm.
Put some bread on his table. Help
Right.
him keep his lights on. Help him stay alive.
Hmm.
Too much selfishness.
Well, this is the
That
funny part because a lot of people think that if another tailor becomes really good and famous and attracts a lot of clients, that it's bad for them. Whereas in my opinion, well, if you're doing a bad job, then you're doing a bad job. But if you're doing a good job and someone else also becomes successful,
right.
it only means that your market is expanding and you probably have a higher rate of survival in the next few years down the line.
You both can stay above water.
Yes.
I just yeah, a lot of it shrinks. It shrinks. It just got smaller, smaller. But I don't think that should scare us.
Mm-hmm.
Be creative. Come up with
Yes.
some way that we can bring it back. That we can bring it back. You know, we don't have to
Right.
have this blue blood American guy flying off to Italy to have garments made, or flying off to the UK and have things made because ain't nobody over here can do it for me. That's bullshit. But it's more attractive to him. You have to make what you do attractive.
Yes.
And I
Right.
think just being a part of a platform, being a part of an organization, a group, you putting your heads together and we can
Mm-hmm.
overcome the difficulties. But you
Yes.
got to get together first. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't get together, ain't nothing going to happen. We'll be talking this
Yes.
30 years
Yeah.
from now.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
got to change. It's got to
Okay.
change.
Okay. Well, one of the things I do during these interviews is I do a speed round. So I have a few words, and I'll say them to you, and then you tell me the first thing that pops up your mind. Okay.
Hmm.
So attention,
Eyes,
eyes. Okay. Judgment,
humbleness,
humbleness. Right. Why do you say that?
because only God can judge.
Right. Got it.
You
History,
have to stay humble. Who are you? The key.
the key, the new generation.
Welcome them.
Welcome them.
Don't resist them.
Beautiful. Very well said. Apprenticeships,
A dying art.
a dying art. Tell me more. Tell me more. Why is an apprenticeship an art form? Because I assume you're talking about you know one of the things I heard once someone say was that before you do anything, master becoming an apprentice and then master whatever you're going to master. But first, master being an apprentice. And this is very much in line with that. Tell us a little bit more. Why do you say it's a dying art?
On both sides.
Right.
For the apprentice, here in America, guys don't want to take the time out to learn how to use these.
Mm-hmm.
He want to figure out a way to make money so he can just buy it. He
Right.
don't want to make anything. Um, we don't want to roll our sleeves up and get to work and study
Mm-hmm.
and show up every day. You're showing up to learn more than you did yesterday. That's why you're here today. That's why you will be here tomorrow. It's the process that you have to go through to learn a craft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not through clothing. It's through carpentry, plumbing, electricity. You don't see too many people with a nobody wants to learn a trade. They want to
Mm-hmm.
go off to a university, get a degree, and make big money. And that's a problem in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, the word apprentice, that means is to study under someone and
Mm-hmm.
to be trained by that someone. I don't want to study nobody. I can do this. All I need me some books, fabric books, a couple of suits. I can go sell some suits.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's got to make it. What about the guy
Yes.
that's got to make it? Ah, nobody wants to make anything. Therefore, the apprentice, I think it's there. Be honest, I just haven't exercised it yet. But I think it's there. I think there's some young men and women that will show up to a place and have to study and
Mm-hmm.
study. But it's the instant gratification that we lived in. Nobody wants to be an apprentice 10, 12 years or even 5 years before you can even touch that part of the code. You're going to do that for 5 years. So what are you
Mm-hmm.
really asking that person to do? Hold that
Mm-hmm.
breath. He might be capable of going on to the next process. Let him go. Let him fly. Let him go. Don't look at time and the tradition. Oh, you got to do that many, many years. You really haven't got that good at it yet. It's good
Mm-hmm.
enough. Let it
Mm-hmm.
go on. Push him. Push him. Now, you got apprentice? Where's your teachers?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to teach these beginners? You have to make it and present it in a way. It is like going to college.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process of schooling. It's a process of learning.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to present it differently. And I think it's being presented wrong. I think it's being presented as a blue collar worker
Mm-hmm.
here in America. Oh, I ain't going to work in no sweatshop.
Yeah.
You know, you sit at a machine all day or standing up, laying out patterns and cutting 3, 4 high. I don't want to do that. I
Yes.
want to make money so I can just go out and buy that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to produce anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the next thing, tailoring schools.
Tailoring schools,
Yes.
not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Okay. Retail.
Bottom line,
Bottom line.
it's out there.
Um.
It's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Savile Row.
Not what it used to be.
Not what it used to be. Man, I've heard that a few times already. That's like it's a dangerous thing for Savile Row. Okay. Okay. Last but not least, the biggest lesson you learned in your career.
How to be a great dresser. How to put it together and tell a
Right.
story without
Tell a
speaking.
story.
Tell a story. That's what life is about.
Mm-hmm.
Storytelling.
Yes. Yes,
Everybody's
indeed.
got a story. How do you do it? Through tailoring.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to make beautiful clothing, man. It speaks for itself.
Yes. Well, thank you. It's we could talk forever, but I think this is a good place to stop. Um, I'm sure that we're going to talk more often and hear the other stories you have to share with us. But all I can do for now is to thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for your wisdom, and I look forward to speak to you probably in the next or in another episode. So thank you, Avery.
And I'll return by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to express myself.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. Take
It's
care,
been an
Avery.
honor for me today. You take care now.
All right. Bye bye. And that was Avery. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to see more from Avery, you could find the link to his Instagram page in the description of this video. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, if you think that there are questions that I'm not asking or there are people who I'm not inviting that you would like to see or questions that you would like me to ask people, please let me know. And I sure hope to see you again in the next episode. Until then, bye bye.